was a life-changing experience from the start. We all arrived at the Tulsa airport at 9 in the morning, even though our flight didn't leave until around 12:25 p.m. We went through security pretty easily and then waited for a while until it was time to leave.
After our 2-hour flight, we arrived in Atlanta and walked around. The Atlanta airport was a lot bigger than the Tulsa airport. After we arrived at the terminal, we went and found some food. We boarded the plane and took off around 4:45. The 9-hour flight was an overnight flight with 2 meals.
How did you feel about the 9-hour flight?
I didn't really have a good time because I sat next to a stranger who didn't speak English, and the flight attendant she wouldn't give me dinner.
It was pretty boring and interesting, because I had to sit by Gabby.
We then landed in Amsterdam and we went through passport control as soon as we got there. Then we went to the terminal after getting food, and we were then on our way to Prague.
We landed in Prague after a 2-hour flight. We got off the plane and went to collect our checked bags.
We all got them except for Jesper. We waited there at the luggage carousel for about 20 minutes and then went to meet our local tour guide.
Major crops grown in Czechia include barley, potatoes, sugar beet, and other fruits. The population of Czechia is at a total of 10.5 million. The Czech Republic, also known as Czechia, is a country that is a part of the EU. The total land area of Czechia is 49,627 miles. Czechia was formed due to the split of Czechoslovakia after the USSR communists fell in 1993. The per capita of Czechia is 35,500 USD. Most people in Czechia are Roman Catholic or atheist.
During the first day, we walked our way down to the old city square, visiting many cool attractions along the way.
The Old Town Square is the central hub of Old Town Prague. In Old Town Square, there are things from old clocks to giant polar bears. There are many street performers throughout the day. Also in the Old Town Square, you will find a rather large statue depicting Jan Hus, a man who was burned at the stake for his beliefs in Constance. Surrounding him are Hussite warriors and Protestants. Also in the square is a famous church named the Church of Mother of God Before Ten. This church represents one of the several impressive Gothic architectures in Prague.
The Charles Bridge was constructed during the 14th and 15th century. Previously, the Judith Bridge was destroyed by a flood and replaced by the Charles. The Charles is one of the only bridges that crosses the Vltava River in Prague. The bridge was previously called the Prague Bridge before people started calling it the Charles Bridge. The Charles Bridge was a major help to the trade economy of Prague. The Charles Bridge is a very important landmark to the history of Prague.
The metronome was built to show the struggles the people of Prague had under communism. The metronome would tick until the fall of communism happened. Before the metronome was a giant statue of Stalin. After Nikita Khrushchev took over the Soviet Union, he quickly wanted to differentiate himself from Stalin, therefore destroying the statue of the dictator. Shortly after the destruction of Stalin's statue, the metronome was built to show the countdown to a new communist-free era.
The Agriculture Museum has many exhibits. Some of these exhibits consist of tractors, crops, and early life. Tractors in the museum date back to the early 1900s when they were first invented. Furthermore, the museum showed how humans have evolved from early life to modern times. The museum shows when certain foods were found and introduced into local food. The museum also has a nice vantage point overlooking the city.
Poland has been a free country since 1918 and recently joined the EU in 2004. Life in Poland can be described as more relaxed than life in America. Homemade food is a huge part of Polish culture, and foods like pierogies, cabbage rolls, and savory pancakes are favorited classics. The most practiced religion is Catholicism, and many Catholic holidays are celebrated, such as Fat Thursday, Ash Wednesday, and the August Feast of Assumption. The total land area of Poland is 312,685 square kilometers and is comparable in size to New Mexico. The land use is divided among agriculture at 48.2%, forestry at 30.6%, and other uses at 21.2%. Poland has a population of 38.5 million and a 93.5 to 100 male-to-female ratio, with a life expectancy of 77 and an unemployment rate of 3.5%.
Our first stop in Poland was the historical Wislica salt mine. The mine reaches a depth over 327 meters and spreads over 178 miles underground. The mine was formed in the 13th century and was a huge source of salt due to the brine collecting at the surface for processing. During our tour, we got to see where the miners worked and the conditions they worked in. The miners worked using only torchlight and had access to little oxygen due to the lack of vents. We also got to visit an underground chapel, completely carved out of salt.
While in the city square, we learned about the legend of the St. Mary's Towers. In the legend, 2 brothers were instructed by King Boleslaus to each build a tower. When the younger brother realized his tower was shorter than the older brother's, he murdered his brother out of envy. By the market hall entrance in the square, a knife is hung to commemorate the legend and the brothers.
In the city center, we learned about one more legend, the legend of the wild dragon. In the legend, a dragon lived at the bottom of the wild hill by the castle. Each day, the dragon would demand food for the residents of Krakow and would eat them if they did not comply. The king, desperate for a solution, stated that whoever could kill the dragon would marry his daughter and win the crown. Scuba, a poor shoemaker, came with a solution to kill the dragon. Using the dragon's gluttony to his advantage, he filled a sheep's skin with hay and sulfur and gave it to the dragon to eat. The dragon was so thirsty from the sulfur that he drank water from the Vistula River until he exploded. The legend had a huge impact on Krakow, and today you can find many souvenirs and stuffed dragons as a nod toward this legend.
Built and run by the Nazi Germans in World War II. Located in southern Poland, Auschwitz initially served as a detention center for political prisoners. Eventually, it evolved into a death camp for people groups against Nazi ideals. When we arrived at Auschwitz, the first thing that could be seen was a barbed fence surrounding the camp and an arched entrance reading, "Work will set you free." We were able to see where the prisoners slept, the belongings they brought with them, and the chambers where they were gassed. In one building, we were shown pictures of many inmates at Auschwitz and how long they survived in the camp. Very few inmates were shown living past a month or 2 after arriving. At Auschwitz II, or Birkenau, we were shown a train car memorial for all the inmates who arrived at Auschwitz. While this experience was somber and emotionally draining, it was important to put into perspective how much suffering and pain people experienced at the hands of the Nazis.
After an emotional morning at Auschwitz, we got the opportunity to cook and eat one of the most famous Polish dishes, pierogies. Pierogies are Polish dumplings that date back to the 13th century and are still enjoyed in multiple countries today. Pierogies are typically made from scratch and have no uniform size because they are cut out by glasses families have in the house. They are boiled and can be made either sweet or savory with fillings such as potatoes, farmer's cheese, sauerkraut, beef, or fruits. Although they are popular in Poland, many countries such as Russia, Lithuania, and Ukraine have taken responsibility for the creation of these dumplings.
Budapest was made the capital of Hungary in 1873. It became the capital when 3 different cities along the Danube River called Buda, O Buda, which means old, and Pest, united, becoming one city, Budapest. Since Budapest is on both sides of the river, it is connected by a bridge. The chain bridge is the most famous bridge in Budapest and was the first bridge to permanently connect Buda and Pest. From 1867 to 1918, Hungary was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was a constitutional monarchy that was formed by giving a new constitution to Austria, which devolved powers of Austria and Hungary.
Budapest is the capital of Hungary. The official language of Budapest is Hungarian. Budapest is the most populated city in Hungary, and there are about 1.74 million people living in Budapest, and most of the people in Hungary are Christian. About 21.4 million people visit every year.
Hungarian agriculture is one of the fastest growing agricultures in Europe. In the last 8 years, it has grown by over 50%. They grow things like wheat, corn, maize, and rye all throughout the country. Hungary also has a rich culture. They make hand-embroidered items, decorated pottery, and more. The religions in Budapest include 66% Catholic, 28% Protestant, along with a strong Jewish community. English is widely spoken in Budapest, along with Hungarian and a little bit of German. Their currency is the Hungarian forint instead of the euro.
Our first morning in Hungary, we met our local tour guide named Agnes. The first thing we did was go to Hero Square. After that, we rode down to St. Matthias Church and had a little free time, which most of us used to go to the market and buy paprika chips. Then we went to the market hall, got split up into 5 different groups, and we had a challenge based on our foods. After that, we went on a bus to the Museum of Hungarian Agriculture. On the way there, we presented what we found based on our challenge.
What was your favorite thing in Budapest?
I really liked the food. Like, the junk food was really good. Like the candy and the chips, the paprika chips were really good.
Paprika chips.
Paprika chips. The Budapest Eye.
Probably the free time, and we had like a crazy European come up to us and ask us if we were Americans.
The fourth country we visited was Slovakia. We visited the city of Bratislava, which also serves as Slovakia's capital. Slovak is the main language spoken in Bratislava. The currency is the euro, and it has a population of about 427,000. Bratislava was founded in the 13th century. Slavic people first settled present-day Slovakia in the 6th century. Bratislava was conquered by the Avars and the Moravian Empire until the year 907, when it fell under Hungary's rule for almost 1,000 years. After the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Czech Republic and Slovakia were joined to form Czechoslovakia until 1993, but Slovakia has been its own independent country ever since.
Agriculture employs almost 9% of Slovakia's labor force. 33% of Slovakia's land is cultivated farmland. The primary agriculture products are sugar beets, potatoes, wheat, barley, corn, pigs, cattle, poultry, and sheep. Under communist rule, most of Slovakia's privately owned farms were forced into state-owned cooperative farms as part of the communist economic system, but were transferred back to private owners after the fall of communism.
First, we did a short tour of the Bratislava Castle. Bratislava Castle is the main castle of Bratislava. It was built in the 9th century but was burned down in a fire in 1811 and underwent a full reconstruction after World War II. During our free time in the Old Town Square, we saw Michael's Gate. Named after St. Michael, Michael's Gate is the only part of the medieval fortifications still left in Old Town Bratislava. Under Michael's Gate is a compass that has the direction of 32 big cities in various parts of the world and how many meters away they are. We concluded our short visit to Bratislava with some free time to explore the Old Town.
The final country we visited was Austria. In Austria, we stayed in the country's capital, Vienna. Vienna is located in eastern Austria and has a dense population of 1.9 million. Austria is part of the European Union, so its official currency is the euro, and the main language spoken is German. Celts first settled present-day Vienna in 500 BC. The Babenbergs, a Frankish dynasty, ruled over Austria from 1156 to 1246. Austria then fell under the rule of the Habsburgs in 1276 and remained under Habsburg rule until 1918. In 1867, Austria and Hungary joined to form the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which lasted until the fall of the Habsburgs in 1918. After Austria's long struggle for republican governance, Austria is now a peaceful federal parliamentary republic.
Austria's farms are mostly family-owned. The best cropland is in eastern Austria. That is where the city of Vienna is located. Austria's main crops are wheat, rye, oats, barley, and potatoes. Only a small percentage of Austria's workforce is in agriculture.
In Vienna, we first saw the Spanish Riding School. This riding school is the only institution where classic equestrian skills are taught. Later that day, we took a bus tour of the city. We drove by the Parliament and the Hofburg where the Habsburgs ruled until 1918. The next day, we visited the Schönbrunn Palace. The palace was the summer residence where Empress Maria Theresa, her husband, and her 16 children spent their summers. We saw the lavish gardens and the fancy interior. The interior of the palace is decorated very uniquely, and each room we saw had its own flair. For dinner, we had an authentic Wiener Schnitzel dinner. Then we got to ride the Prater Ferris wheel and see the views of Vienna at night. Then we ended the night riding all sorts of rides in the amusement park before taking the bus back to the hotel.
After 8 days of traveling over 730 miles, it was finally time to leave. Well, that is except for Olivia Knight and Peyton, who overslept and had to be woken up by Dr. Brown banging on their door.
After the girls made it downstairs, we grabbed our breakfast and headed towards the bus. We loaded the bus and made our way to Vienna International Airport.
Upon arrival to the airport, we got our suitcases and headed inside. We grabbed our boarding tickets and went through security. After this, we headed towards our gate. This is when Alyssa, Peyton, and Isabella went to get a smoothie and almost missed the flight.
We arrived at the Amsterdam airport and went through passport check. The line was really long. As soon as we got our passport check, we moved to our gate. We had around a 2-hour layover. Everyone went to get food and drinks.
It was finally time to board our flight to Atlanta. This flight, Olivia Carson and Riley got sick. Brett had a nosebleed, and we slowly began to fall apart.
We arrived in Atlanta and had to go through security again. While waiting in the line to go through, Riley continued to lay on the floor curled up in a ball. We eventually made it through and went to our gate.
The flight was really cold and everyone slept for the entire time. When we arrived at Tulsa, all the parents were holding welcome back signs and screaming.